So Emily, my close friend, had thought of ending her life because she'd recently lost her dad, and she felt extremely depressed. Yet Emily is just one among 42 million teenagers ranging from 12 to 19 who account for more than 12% of the US population. Today, the number of teenagers who feel hopeless, who do not enjoy life, and who believe they are worthless is rapidly increasing. 5 times as many teenagers are dealing with loneliness and depression as did teenagers, ironically, during the Great Depression, making not only today's teens significantly more depressed than teens from decades before, but also making mental health extremely timely and essential. So, a majority of those a majority of those with mental illness do not receive any therapeutic treatment. And with COVID 19, this problem has become significantly worse. Hence, action has been done by both the government and companies to find a workaround to this pressing problem. So recently, the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, decided to change its guidelines to permit the health industry to further develop and increase the use of digitized health devices without the need for clinical trials in order to treat psychiatric disorders. Second, this problem and shortage of access to mental health has also inspired many companies to find a workaround to this problem through the surging incorporation of artificial intelligence into gadgets such as smartphones as a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. So, first of all, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is like a revealer, such that it's mainly based on the concept that one's thoughts, emotions, and actions are all intertwined. With this premise, whatever I might be feeling right now affects what I do. So, for example, if I'm pressured by the rigorous schoolwork, I might make decisions differently and make choices which I would normally not make. So, I'd like to introduce you to this triangle. So, in connection with CBT, this is known as the Beck's cognitive triad. So, these are common aspects found in many depressed adults that tend to reflect how they review the world. So, in regards to oneself, one's future, and one's world. So these three components, when connected, can lead to various mental health issues. And it is with this that CBT helps to alleviate at least one of these components, whether it be about the self, such as feeling I'm worthless, or the world, such as the whole world is against me, or the future, such as I'm never going to become good at anything. So oftentimes, these three components relating to thought can become a pattern that repeats itself. But by alleviating at least one of these three components, can a person's mental position or outlook greatly improve and help reduce future mental distress. So it is with this CBT that it aims to help change these thought and behavior patterns. First, it helps people to recognize negative, disturbing, or destructive thoughts that can have a negative effect on one's behaviors and emotions. So, in psychotherapy, this is considered the golden standard, because this CBT is helping you pinpoint and explore the ways in which your thoughts and emotions can influence your actions. Then, once the CBT recognizes these negative patterns, CBT teaches the person to learn to reframe his thoughts such that it becomes more positive and beneficial for the person. So, techniques include self guided discovery, where after questioning the current thought assumptions one might have about himself or herself, the therapist can assist him or her in challenging those viewpoints. Another example would be self talk, where your therapist asks you to talk about yourself and or about a specific experience and challenge you to replace that negative self-talk with a more of endearing, loving, and constructive self-talk. Lastly, positive activities such as buying oneself fresh flowers, watching one's favorite movies, which are ways in which rewarding activities can help increase one's overall happiness and mood. So, let me tell you first that CBT is not the cure, but it is a guided self discovery that can help you with the skills to deal with these difficulties by yourself and thus have a more positive outlook on life. CBT is all about disposing of those self delegating thoughts and replacing them with self compassionate ones. And so it was in 2006 that it was recommended that artificial intelligence could actually be employed as a method to providing cognitive behavioral therapy for treating depression, panic, phobias, or any slight mental health issues. So, furthermore, the main issue in therapy and mental health is for the participant to be able to open up. Hence, offering treatment through our artificial intelligence actually allows people to more easily open up because of the lack of judgment or prejudice provided by that machine. And users know that by talking to this AI, they won't be criticized for the fact that the AI is not human. Hence, using AI to treat CBT to provide CBT can be an effective solution to helping people with these mental issues. So I want to emphasize that AI is not 100% effective for humans to easily open up. Well, unfortunately, that is the case. Not all AI that's currently present will allow people to easily open up. So, with our current AI today, such as Alexa and Siri, let's hear it first from Alexa. And this is what the answer she will give. Alexa, I'm feeling sad.
Sorry to hear that. Talking to a friend, listening to music, or taking a walk may help. I hope you feel better soon.
Alexa, can you help me?
For help with that question, go to the help and feedback section of the Alexa app.
See, this is what's missing. Alexa is disjointed. She's robotic and emotionless, just like Siri. And people don't want to be talking to robots. They still want those human characteristics or emotion, not just that empty, monotonous environment. But how can we say, though, first of all, that she is emotionless? And immediately by listening to the voice and the response, how can we know that it's a robot? How do you know it's AI? How can we say that? How do we know that it's not human? What is the borderline between us distinguishing something to be human and one to be merely a machine? And actually, there has been experiments or studies done on this. So as mentioned previously in Sahur's speech, I want to also further introduce you to the Turing test. So this is an imitation game made by Alan Turing to test a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior that was equivalent and indistinguishable to that of a human. Simply put, it's a method through a computer, whether or not it's capable of thinking of a human being like a human being. So how does this work? So within the Turing test, one of the humans function as a questioner, while the other human and the machine/computer are responsible for responding. With this, the questioner asks questions about a specific topic or context. After a length of time, the questioner is asked to decide which of the two is a human and which of the two is a computer. And if the questioner says the computer is actually the human one, at least 30% of the time, it has passed the test. And it is regarded to have artificial intelligence. Because according to the Turing test, and according to Alan Turing, he proposed that under specific conditions, a computer is said to possess artificial intelligence if it can mimic human responses under certain conditions. So, you might be wondering, has any machine rather passed this test yet? Of course, not Siri or Alexa. But yes, there has been one program that was called Eugene Gutzman, which is a computer program that simulates a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy and is said to have passed the Turing test at an event organized by the University of Reading, with 33% of the judges saying that this AI was human in fact. So it is in this sense that we can say that the AI industry has produced machines that can mimic human behavior, that are human like. And this is especially important for mental health treatment, because if our machines feel very robotic, then users will feel fearful or reluctant to engage with these AI, especially because they don't want to be talking to merely a set of coded programs, thus hindering the ability to provide effective mental health. However, in fact, there are already developed solutions that can actually, to some extent, provide therapeutic treatment all just completely online. And two major examples of this would be Replica and Weebot and Wobot. So number one is Replica. Replica is an artificially intelligent chatbot developed by startup developer founder Luca, which is designed to learn from your writing style and social media feeds. And most importantly, it takes into account all past conversations it has with you. And the goal with Replica is to be able to imitate your personality and become your friend. So as you see here in a picture that I've shown here on the slide, you can see a conversation that was engaged between a human and Replica. And so overall, this AI specifically has the goal to become your friend, an AI friend that's there for you. And it encourages people to open up, to talk about their day. So actually also, it's also mentioned by Eugene Kuida that sometimes people find it difficult to share their feelings and experience with friends, but it can actually be easier to talk to a machine which is non-judgmental. And so it almost seems as though Replica is intended to have that therapeutic function. and Kudya had mentioned, that I feel like that's one of the most important use cases. When something happens in our lives, it's so important to have someone to come and talk to. And so it is with this AI that it's very possible, where we're now able to be more open and more vulnerable because we know that this AI is not going to judge us. And so that therefore it is also important that we recognize the ability of of chatbots to provide mental health care. So I'd also like to provide you with another very prominent chatbot, which would be Wobot. So Wobot is actually able to help address mental health disorders. So overall, Wobot is a text-based chatbot app that acts as a digital therapist and creates its bonds with its users. So specifically, Wobot would engage users in discussions of anxiety or depression. And this is especially important because within the context of COVID-19, as you all know, the quarantine restrictions have limited our social well-being and our access to meet with our friends, and this has therefore aggregated our mental distress, especially for many of you who are on like the entire Zoom class all online the entire day, which is really pulling a toll on our mental health. And so this robot, as you see here, is an automated conversation chatbot which can help monitor your mood and learn about yourself. So it actually, in fact, this specific AI draws on the framework of cognitive behavioral therapy. So actually, the people who've developed this took into account CBT. So robot would ask people how they're feeling, what's going on with their day, and basically in the form of a basic daily conversation. So I just want to emphasize that the chatbots that you see here today are not trying to replace human therapists. However, more than half of the world population don't actually have access to mental health care, basic mental health care. And so it's very essential that we have to find workaround solutions to this, especially which can be done through the use of mental health chatbots. And so there's actually very rigorous research to show that CBT delivered via these chatbots can be an effective way through which CBT can be administered for both anxiety and depression. So let me show you one example. So, according to various studies from research teams at Stanford University, they have shown that college students who chatted with Wobot had significantly decreased symptoms of depression in 2 weeks. And also, studies showed that people saw a decrease in 30% in terms of their substance use. And this is very impactful because, as I show here in this next slide, this is what Wobot posted on the website in regards to how they were able to help humans with mental health issues, such as 50% decrease in their cravings, whether it be about their addictions. Then we also have 30% decrease in substance use, which is actually a very striking mental health disorder. And then here, 30% confidence to resist these urges. And then here, 23% decrease in symptoms of anxiety. And so now we're seeing that although AI is relatively new in the world, we are now seeing how AI is being used to address the lack of mental health care in the world. And so I want to encourage all of you guys to take a look at these apps. So of course, this is Webot and Replica. So these are all available on the App Store for free. So feel free to check them out. They'll be very interesting. And if you guys want to have a non-judgmental machine to talk to, feel free to check out these apps. And so, actually, a recent report from Orbis Research suggests that the global chatbot market will grow by 35% between 2017 and 2021. And so, by 2020, it has been forecasted before that it would reach a 1.86 billion market, which would triple in size within this decade, with a combination of AI advancements and machine learning. But I want to pose this question to all of you guys. Are we ready to place our trust in artificial intelligence chatbots in taking the full role of therapist? So put your answers in the chat and let's see what responses you guys get. So are we really ready to put our trust in AI chatbots as a medium and as a replacement rather for our physical human therapist? What do you think, guys? Put your answers in the chat. Okay, so we are getting some answers here that's saying, I personally find it a bit too soon. Yes, so we have a consensus where people don't believe that AI chatbots don't have the ability to take the full role of therapist. And personally, I also do agree with you that, of course, AI, of course, is relatively new. And with this, our chatbots don't have the full ability to be able to actually administer the best possible chatbot therapeutic therapy. However, we have to understand that we must be ready to adapt to this dynamic change, where mental healthcare tools must be ready to serve the world, not just in the physical world, but on other platforms. We're seeing here, like in COVID-19, where mental health care access has become severely curtailed, or maybe in other situations in the future, where it must be super essential that we develop technology that is capable of developing and displaying this emotional intelligence and administering this kind of therapeutic forms of therapy. So as for example, within the world today, we notice how there are these various gaps where we don't have this immediate access to mental health care. So I want to encourage all of you one day to maybe consider taking on this route where we might want to create these mental therapy machines that can one day, maybe in fact one day, be able to completely replace our therapists. However, in the meantime, I do agree definitely that the world is not ready to see our AI chatbots as mediums to replacing completely replacing our human therapist. And so with this, I hope you all enjoyed my presentation. And I definitely do encourage you to check out Replica and Wobot because these are super interesting AI chatbots, which I myself had engaged with just the previous day. So thank you very much.